everybody. Welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined as always by
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody. Logan's new setup is weird. I don't like it.
Let's talk about our little segment Newsflash. Usually we cover a bunch of different types of news for the segment, but one piece of news dropped last night for us, a few days ago for all of you listening, that seems to just be so much bigger than any other piece of news that we could talk about. So I wanted to dedicate the whole segment to this. Robert Downey Jr. is Dr. Doom.
Sure.
And Dr. Doom is the main villain of the next two Avengers movies, Avengers Doomsday, and then Avengers Secret Wars.
Yes.
There's also a Fantastic Four movie coming out next summer where he will probably show up as Dr. Doom.
I would assume. Yeah.
Because Dr. Doom usually shows up for Fantastic Four things.
He does.
Typically.
Not always.
Yeah, but typically.
So,
Ethan, what do you think of all of this?
I think the video at Comic-Con of him in the mask taking it off and revealing himself to be Dr. Doom is made so much funnier by the random guy yelling Jared Leto before he does it. I think if it was Jared Leto, that would have been something. I'm so conflicted on this because on one hand, and I think on the immediate hand, like this is the first thing you think of when you see this news. Why? Like they concluded his whole tenure with Marvel in Endgame. They gave him a great send-off and essentially had him pass the torch to the next generation of Marvel actors and actresses. Yeah. And so to bring him back feels really cheap because it's just like, is there no one else that you could get? There are dozens of actors who would have been really good in this role who now don't get the chance because RDJ is just back again. On the other hand, I think that if the way that they do Doctor Doom isn't just like an Iron Man variant or whatever, but like a fully new character, and it's just RDJ doing a different character in the Marvel Universe rather than some new version of Tony Stark, I think he could give a very good performance. Like, just since being done with Marvel, obviously Oppenheimer's really the big one. Like, he's branched out. He's had good performances. He's had different performances than what we knew from him in Marvel. And so I think if he brings something new to the table, it'll be worth it and it'll be interesting and I'm looking forward to it. I just can't help but have that aching feeling that we don't really need Robert Downey Jr. back in the MCU really this soon. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a little off-putting. I definitely agree with that. And I guess I have two different thoughts. One being like, if you want to bring back some sort of energy to the MCU, bringing back RDJ is definitely an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
But it felt like that was already happening with Deadpool and Wolverine being such a massive success and with like Captain America looking really good.
Yeah.
And then Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, the reception to both of those seemed to be really positive in Comic-Con. But then revealing RDJ, it's just like kind of odd. You know, it's a very... It's just hard to know exactly what to feel. But I'm going to try to take this from a more positive lens because I do think that Marvel is going in a more positive direction. I really appreciated that this Comic-Con really only focused on 5 movies.
Yeah.
Right? It focuses on Captain America, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and a little bit of 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk about all these TV shows. It doesn't talk about the next big phase of Marvel. It sticks with the next 5 movies we have. And I do really appreciate that. And my guess is that he will be a variant of Tony Stark. And I feel like that could work given that this is the multiverse saga.
Possibly.
So if you want to make it very multiversy, why not make the villain your biggest hero in the Infinity Saga?
I
Right?
guess I'm just because I look at the multiverse thing as like all the variant stuff
Mm-hmm.
is really just an excuse to bring back characters or actors that if you weren't doing that would have no way to be there. And I think it's just a very cheap way to use the multiverse where like other stories, really the Spider-Verse movies are the ones that come to mind, are like using it as I guess a canvas to tell a better story of these characters that we already know.
Yeah.
And like they bring in new versions of characters, but not as really cheap fan service. Like if anything, it's a 5-second cutaway and is
Mm-hmm.
really there to enhance the world building, if anything. It's not the whole package. And I think Doctor Doom is a good choice because I'm not into Marvel comics really at all, but from what I do know, that's really like the big bad besides like Thanos, Galactus, I know, a lot of others, but like it sounded like there was never really going to be a place for Doctor Doom in the MCU if they didn't
Yeah.
switch things up with Kang. So I'm happy that this is the case because obviously all the Jonathan Major stuff, there's really no going back to that. And I think it was very smart to decide just like we're throwing out Kang. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the fact that that's no longer hindering the franchise's ability to move forward, I think is a smart play. My issue, I guess, with it, again with RDJ, it just feels like a cheap way to get fans invested again, which sucks because, like you mentioned, Deadpool and Wolverine is obviously already a huge hit. You have Captain America, which looked really good, I think.
Yeah.
They should have confidence in these projects, and I'm not even saying they don't. I just think that the Robert Downey Jr. casting speaks to a lack of confidence that, like, without it, they don't think they can get fans back on board,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is BS because, like, you can clearly tell the focus on quality over quantity is like finally happening. People have
Yeah.
been loosely talking about it for a while, but I think this is really the first time where, again, phase 6 of the MCU, it's only a handful of projects.
Yeah. Which is
Phase
awesome.
phase 4 runtime wise was like the first 3 combined. We don't even really know what 5 like if 5 has changed so much since stuff was announced where we are now, where we're going.
Yeah. What is phase
I
5?
don't even know. But I think like they're on the right track now with how many projects they should be putting out and how much work they should be investing into them individually, which is more than they had been.
Mm-hmm.
That this just it's a completely different direction than the positive one I think they were going. I'm not going to say it's all bad because again I do think part of it is a smart way to shift the story at least to something that is less problematic, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's the casting and it could turn out great. I hope it does, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd to say the least. I mean, I keep saying it, but it is, and it leaves me as somebody who was really starting to jump back on the fandom before Deadpool and Wolverine and getting really into it, feeling very odd, and
Yeah.
I'm just confused right now, to be honest. And I do have some faith. I think that they have been writing the ship back. I think, despite the RDJ choice being questionable, the Russo brothers' choice was
That was
fantastic.
yeah, I love that.
That's a great choice. So they are actively making good choices. All the choices that they're making with Captain America, Thunderbolt, Fantastic Four, those all looked great. The only weird looking thing was RDJ. And I think that shows that they do have a vision. There is a path forward, and I trust Kevin Feige to do his thing
Yeah.
because this is a lot less projects. They are focusing on quality over quantity, and this is like the only thing that seemed off. Nothing else at all felt questionable from this Comic
Yeah.
Con, and I think that that's a
Just
good sign.
just to put another point in the pro column for it, because I do feel I was very negative, there is a line in Deadpool and Wolverine that talks about how essentially Disney is holding all of these actors hostage and they're going to do this
Yeah.
till they're 90. Robert Downey Jr. is the kind of person who, like, there are a lot of people who definitely were not meant to act in front of green screens for a decade. Robert Downey Jr. seems like one of the people who had a ton of fun being part of the MCU.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's back, especially after the Oscar win for Oppenheimer, he's in a place right now where he has a lot more freedom to do what he wants to do with his career, with the roles that he takes on. So I think the fact that he is back, it seems very much like an active choice, like he does want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that does give me a little more faith, because if it was just the same old stuff, I don't think he would have that enthusiasm. But the fact that he does, I think, gives me more confidence than I would.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And I think if they do go the route of him being a Tony Stark variant, I think he's essentially going to be this evil Iron Man that they've had in the comics, Superior Iron Man, but just Doctor Doom, but just kind of like the same, like sort of a merger of those. Like they've done this in the comics before. And I do think that if you want to make this Avengers movie work, where it is a variant of Tony Stark as the villain, who is Doctor Doom, I think that you need it to, like, I think you need these Avengers movies to essentially be Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Given that, you know, Peter was the guy closest to Tony, and I think this by far would be the most emotional for him. So if they're going to make these the best movies possible, these have to be Spider-Man movies, and it has to end somewhere where Peter has significantly matured and is like willing to take on, like really take on the Iron Man mantle. I think if that is the direction that they go and that's what they do, these could be a really good set of Avengers movies. I don't see really a lot of other paths forward where him being a Tony Stark variant could really hit home unless you really lean into the whole Peter Parker connection with Tony.
Even that does give me pause, though, because I think if for an Avengers movie with so many characters, because now we have like even more than we did before, I think if you're going to put so much focus on one Avenger, I don't know how you do it and still balance everybody else, because none of the 4 Avengers movies had so much emphasis placed on just one character.
Yeah.
Like, I think you have really Iron Man and Captain America are, it feels like the 2 in Endgame that really get that, because they're the ones with those big send-offs. I don't think, like, Black Widow, her movie was still to come, and she never had anything before that, so I don't think you really loop her in with that. But I think, I don't know, I'm curious to see how it comes out. Part of me has faith in Marvel just based on where they're going. Part of me is obviously still hungover from the last couple of years, and as we are about to get into, I don't know if Deadpool and Wolverine, at least for me, makes me feel better about their future. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where this goes, though.
Me too. And I think we've probably beaten a dead horse at this point, so I don't want to keep going for too much longer, but it's going to be interesting. I think at this point, we just kind of have to take it movie by movie. I'm excited for Captain America. After Captain America, we'll see if I'm excited for Thunderbolts. Personally, that's kind of the boat I'm in now, I think. And I think that that's probably going to be a lot of other Marvel fans.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think this RDJ reveal has been, it's exciting, but it's questionable. It seems to be the general reaction.
It's questionable, but for the first time in a very long time, I am cautiously interested to see where the MCU is going.
Yeah. I'm also optimistic.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, again, just the sheer focus on 5 movies over the course of the next 3 years really seems to be pushing home that they're going in a good direction.
We're getting back to the good old days, if that's the case.
And I'm curious if there will be more revealed at D23. because that's in 2
Probably
weeks.
at least a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what they reveal there. For now, I think we should jump over to Deadpool and Wolverine and the
Oh my god, more
office.
Marvel!
More Marvel. So I don't want to talk too much about Deadpool and Wolverine right now. I want to save it really for the end of this episode where we can get into spoilers.
Okay.
But, Deadpool and Wolverine, it made $205 million at the box office, $438.3 million worldwide total. It was predicted by our source that we have to change because this prediction is absurd. Our source, The Numbers, predicted this movie to have the second highest domestic opening weekend of all time at a whopping $277 million. So by that prediction, this movie was a massive flop.
Can't believe it. Wow.
Just like Longlegs. Both of those movies were somehow flops, according to our source.
What's so funny about The Numbers is that it gives projections based on previews. It gives projections based on, like, other movies that feel like they would make a similar amount to this.
Yeah.
It does all these calculations and gives so many non-final predictions, and all of those seemed realistic. They were like the high 100s, the low 200s, and then all of a sudden,
I think it was like 184 and then just a flat 200.
Yeah,
like
and then somehow, some way, the math does not check. There's no reason it should be this. They just decide on 277 as the final prediction.
Yeah.
Why?
That's a great question.
I mean, you're the one that should be saying why. I love this personally for
our
auction.
We do a monthly movie auction. Our next auction is on Friday, and I picked Deadpool and Wolverine, thinking it would crush the box office round. Well, no, it's a flop. Apparently,
this single-handedly lost you the auction. I think.
So the numbers. You are going to cause me to do something I rarely do on this podcast, which is swear, because fuck you.
That was pointed. Damn, wow.
Yeah. All right, let's actually talk about the movie a little bit without getting into spoilers.
Let's do it.
I'm just kind of in a weird place with this movie as well. I didn't think it was bad, but I also didn't think it was good. I have an opinion that a lot of people on YouTube really don't like, because right now, God, how many dislikes is my YouTube?
Are there like mean comments on your review?
Oh, so many mean comments.
Can I actually go onto your review right now and read some of the comments aloud?
Sure. So wait, I have 19 likes, and some people who have commented have been like, oh, like, I really like this review, blah, blah, blah. 42 dislikes.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever even gotten 42 likes on a video, let alone dislikes.
I like this comment of someone just going, question, what is your favorite movie?
Yeah. I feel like that's just kind of like a very like trying to judge me based on my favorite movie. So at some point I'll probably respond, but I haven't yet. Sitting at a nice 1,533 views though, so I'll take that. But 42 dislikes. It's feels good.
I'm happy you're making YouTube videos, but this take is garbage. It's your take and you're entitled to it, but it's garbage. One below that is just worst review.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is why I never did reviews on YouTube, I think.
That's a fair reason. Honestly, I'm still feeling good. At the end of the day, the review is putting up great numbers. This is by far my best performing video
since Horizon.
Month. Yeah, since better than Horizon. Horizon
really
at this time had 1,000. This has almost 1.6.
Nice.
So
as long as it's not impacting your mental health, whatever works.
It's not impacting my mental health. Also, the Horizon review for a while was not doing great in the dislike category as well. Okay. But now the Horizon review has gone back to more likes than dislikes.
Some of the comments on the Horizon review
were with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Some of the Horizon comments were really harsh.
Yeah. Because it was like calling me a kid. and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's just like a bunch of old people being like, "You don't understand, kid."
I'm
It's like,
fascinated they even know how to comment on YouTube. Like, good
yeah,
for
me
them
too.
figuring that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. I mean, it's gonna be like the same crowd that's like really defensive of Reagan.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Reagan on
Can't wait for
Friday
Reagan.
in our August movie auction. Little plug
Let's
for that.
go. Should
So
we talk about Deadpool and Wolverine? I feel like we didn't
yes,
talk
we
about it
should.
yet.
So let me give my actual like take on
Okay.
that. I had a couple of issues with it. I found the comedy to not really land for me as much. It had some great elements of Deadpool comedy, but the issue is that a lot of the comedy here just felt like regular MCU comedy rather than Deadpool comedy. And to me, it took away from a lot of the emotionality in this film, something I've seen Sean Levy, the director, lean very heavily into when he has interviewed about this film or, talked about a scene for the New York Times. He talks about how he's really proud of the emotions in this film and that it's a very emotional film. But I felt like the comedy took away from all of those emotional moments pretty substantially because then, yes, you would get like one emotional scene followed up by a big comedic scene or literally with a punchline in the same scene or something like that. So never was I really able to fully get into the emotions specifically of Wolverine because I think he is really the emotional core of this film. I also hated the needle drops. I'm just going to say it. I think the needle drops took away from this film incredibly, specifically Madonna.
Yeah.
That needle drop and the placement of that needle drop eliminated all of the tension from that scene. And given the scene that song is utilized in, that sucks because it's just like you have these songs that are feel good songs during these tense moments, but the moments don't feel tense because the song feels so good. So in your head, you're just like, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then, small spoiler alert, everything is fine. So I don't know if that's really a big spoiler. I would assume it's not because
Not
that's
really.
usually how these movies go. But yeah, like these songs make it very clear that like there are just no stakes in this film really because of the needle drop. So I think if you had an intense score, it would have worked so much better. And they try this with the needle drops. They add like a choir and they change the beats and all of that to make it feel more intense. But at the end of the day, it is still Madonna. You can't change that. And you can't change that the song feels good. It doesn't feel intense or scary.
Agreed.
And I guess my last bit too is Cassandra Nova is very underutilized as a villain. Her scenes were pretty good. I thought that she was a really solid villain when she was there. Issue is that she maybe got 20 minutes of screen time.
Maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. Ethan, I'll shift
right.
everything to you.
I'm going to try and break this into positives and negatives.
Yeah, I was very negative. So if you can talk a bit about positives, that would be great.
We feel the same on it. Like we both gave this 3 stars, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So one thing I really liked was Hugh Jackman. I am not someone who has seen a ton of X-Men movies. Outside of this, Logan is the only Hugh Jackman Wolverine movie I have seen, which is like, it is the one. Like, it's the one that is commonly referred to as one of the best superhero movies like of that decade. However, but I think blending that with a Deadpool movie, whereas like Logan, that's kind of the whole tone, is like this more kind of gritty, I guess, angry, stoic type stuff. Here he's playing off Ryan Reynolds, and I think it allows Hugh Jackman as a dramatic actor to shine. There's one scene in particular I'm thinking of, and like he really goes for it, and I think his performance is really solid. I think the chemistry he and Ryan Reynolds have is really good. Essentially makes this just like a buddy comedy.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at its strongest easily, is just when the two of them are playing off each other. I think the way that Deadpool is kind of utilized in this movie, where he keeps it very grounded, even if the humor itself doesn't land, the fact that he is cracking jokes, like we've seen it before in Marvel movies, but I think for this one to go much more, I'd say, cosmic than the other two Deadpool movies, it almost kind of felt like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in a few ways, some good, some bad. How I mean that, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I just thought that the way humor was utilized to balance all of the wacky multiverse stuff, even if the humor itself wasn't always great, the way that it was applied, I think, generally worked, at least in theory.
Yeah, and it helped a lot with the exposition because this film
Agreed.
acts as a huge way to catch audiences up with the TV show exposition. So the humor does a good job cutting that up and making it more digestible, but I wouldn't say that it makes it good.
Yeah. I would say with the action, it's hit or miss. I think there are a couple really good sequences, a couple others that weren't bad that just kind of left me a little underwhelmed. Matthew McFadden, really funny, really good, always a pleasure to watch. Like just him kind of hamming it up as this character was just really fun. Obviously, I love
Yeah.
him in like Succession. He's not really doing that here, but it's like it's some version of Tom Goes Crazy in the
Mhm.
MCU, and it's so silly and just cheered me up. Really, the I would say one of the more positive things I have to say about this was just watching it in a theater with like there was like maybe 3 or 4 seats in the entire theater that weren't taken. It was just good to watch a Marvel movie with a crowd that was into it on
Yeah,
opening
I
night. It was
agree.
just a good experience. And
It was.
even if I didn't love the movie, like I enjoyed it so much more than I ever would have.
Mhm.
Like even like the a lot of the cameos don't really work. Some of them do. The more I think about them, the less I like them. But like when they happen, the crowd is so into it, and I
Yeah.
love being a part of that, and it was great.
Yeah,
A
I
lot of
agree.
character stuff I have issues with. I think we'll get into that when we get to spoilers. Just a lot of the story, but I'm very neutral on this. I have a lot of opinions on it though. That's one of the things I take away is for a 3-star movie, I never have this many opinions, and so it's one of the more interesting, just like middle of the road movies that I can think of, where I have a lot of
Yeah.
positives and a lot of negatives, and it's not just indifference.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
I think that this movie has a hard time with how big its scale is. I think Deadpool movies are more meant to be smaller scale. And I think kind of an issue that I've had with the comedy in this film comes from the fact that it's such a big scale film, yet everybody seems to be joking in the exact same way, which I think works when it's smaller scale and the stakes aren't as high. But here, the stakes are massive, they are galactic, you could say.
yeah,
And yet everybody is just kind of cracking jokes willy-nilly, and this is a comedy, and I just don't think it works for a Deadpool movie, but it doesn't work for a grand scale Marvel movie. And also, I'm sorry about the dog
I did
right
hear
now.
that. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say
she's
something.
barking up a storm
Oh
currently.
yeah.
So, oh my god, she just won't shut up.
I mean, we're trying to record. You could say she's barking up the wrong tree right now.
She is definitely barking up the wrong tree right now. And I
Yeah.
don't want to get into things too much more because we're going to be able to talk about the
Yeah. Let's
spoilers. I
let's
guess,
get away from it so that we
yeah.
have more to say later, I
Well, wait, my
guess.
one
Okay.
more my one other bit for people that haven't seen this movie yet. I do want to address the cameos. I have mixed feelings on that as well. I
All right.
appreciate that. I don't want to say who cameos in here, but those characters are actually like used. At least most of the cameos, like
Yeah.
these characters show up and then they stick around for a little bit. They don't
Yeah.
just go away right after you see them, which I think is nice. It's nice to see that they're being used kind of well. My issue is that I think that the film sometimes leans a bit too much into the cameos. There's one scene in particular where it's just people walking into a room and then the music gets more dramatic with every
I
person
am
who
so
walks in.
excited to watch that
And
scene like on my phone.
yeah, Because I just
with no
feel
crowd.
like in a theater it's cool, but in hindsight it's just really cheesy.
I thought about the music
Yeah.
while I was watching it. I was like, this is so much fun. This is gonna be memed to death
Yeah.
once people have once it's settled and once people can just watch it online by themselves.
Yeah, because it's literally just like one person, derm, one person, derm, one person, derm, and then final person,
It's a much more dramatic version of when Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come in No Way Home, and it's just like them each getting left 4 or 5 seconds for the audience to applaud. Like
Yeah.
it's that, but here it's like blasting like cinematic music. It's so silly.
Yeah, and it would be one thing if then like Deadpool made fun of it, but Deadpool doesn't.
He doesn't, yeah.
It's not something where he breaks the fourth wall and is like, this is really silly.
It's
Isn't
meant
this,
to be
like,
taken
so
seriously.
stupid? Yeah. And that's kind of like what? You know,
Right.
and then those characters are utilized pretty well after that, but in the moment, yes, in a theater it's cool, but in hindsight, when you think about it, it's just like, really? So I just think overall, if you are a just regular fan of Marvel, you're not like a big movie snob like Ethan and I think we can both admit are, you're going to love this movie. I'm just going to say it. Like, you'll love it.
It has like a 97% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Like it's gonna be a really good time for you. So I don't want to mislead you on that. But if you are kind of a movie snob, you are gonna have some issues with it. Because it kind of goes against a lot of movie fundamentals, you might say.
Yeah.
And just kind of leans into a lot of sort of like pet peeves I think a lot of people like us have. And I don't want to say then don't listen to our opinion, but that's kind of what I'm saying. For a movie like this, we have a strong opinion that is very mixed, but there is a very good chance that you will not agree with this opinion. And that is evidenced by the massive like to dislike ratio on my review right now.
Woo!
Woo! Okay.
Right. So let's breeze through the rest of these so that we can keep talking about this, because now I want to.
Okay. Twisters, $35.3 million, $221.2 million worldwide total, dropped 56.6% at the domestic box office this weekend. Glad it didn't fall off harder than that. It's really nice that it has a 5 in front of that percentage drop. You know, it's just good that people are seeing Twisters. And I'm glad that it kind of still fits next to Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. Like its second weekend is
56 looks bad, but like it overperformed quite a bit opening weekend, so this really isn't that bad.
And also, like in other context, Twisters in its second weekend did better than like Furiosa or The Fall Guy in its first weekend.
Yeah.
You know, or in their respective first weekends. So Twisters is looking very strong, in my opinion. It's not going to be as big as Dune or something like that, which opened in a very similar vein to Twisters, just because Twisters has some genre competition in Deadpool and Wolverine, but it's going to do well. It's a pretty solid success.
Yeah.
There's also Despicable Me 4, made $14.2 million at the domestic box office, dropping 41.9%, and now sits at a very solid $677.7 million worldwide. Inside Out 2 made $8.3 million, dropped 35.3%, and is sitting at another solid $1.505 billion worldwide.
It crossed 1.5.
It is the biggest animated movie of all time.
I was waiting in line to get my ticket scanned before Deadpool and Wolverine, and the guy in the line, behind me in line, was talking to his girlfriend about how Inside Out 2 is now the highest grossing animated movie of all. Mm-hmm. Like, those people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Success.
That is a success. Wait, is this the same guy who
This
you
is
mentioned
not
in your
the same.
Letterboxd
No,
review?
no.
Okay. You have to tell
Dear
the
Lord.
story when we
I
get
will,
into
yeah.
Deadpool spoilers. So then there's Long Legs, made 6.8 million, sits at a dropped 45.3% at the box office, holding very well, which I love. I
Yeah.
love to see that Long Legs is
Still in the top 5
counter programming.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
Like Neon, it's now Neon's highest grossing film domestically, which is awesome. Love to see that. And worldwide, it's sitting at $66.8 million.
Let's go.
Outside of the top 5, A Quiet Place Day 1 made $3 million, dropped 52.5%, and is sitting at $253.7 million worldwide total. Bad Boys made $1.3 million, dropped 52.3%, and is sitting at $395.2 million worldwide. Fabulous 4 opened this weekend and made $1 million with no reported worldwide gross outside of that. Fly Me to the Moon.
Fantastic Four movie?
No, it's about old ladies.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, one of those, pretty much. Fly Me to the Moon dropped a whopping 77.8%.
What
to make
happened?
$750,000 with a $36.9 million worldwide total.
It lost a lot of theaters.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It's very rough. This movie cost over $100 million to make.
Wow.
So I thought it was pretty solid, but woof.
You and who else? Jeez.
I mean, a lot of people are commenting on my YouTube review about how much they liked it.
Okay.
So those people.
I feel like I don't want to trust your commenters at this point.
Also, just like algorithm wise, it's like the review that's held the best.
Interesting. Like, I guess because
it came out on like over 2 weeks ago, and it's still generating like a respectable amount of views per day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is rough.
It is rough. I agree. Not looking too hot.
No.
One might say. And finally is a movie called Rayon. Never heard of it before, but made $453,000 at the domestic box office. Outside of the top 10 are Maxine and The Bike Riders. So goodbye to those movies.
Goodbye. I don't have opinions.
I think you know how we've seen a few movies like really all of a sudden perform very well?
As in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this weekend?
Yes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this weekend.
Have you finally discovered why this happens? Please.
It is drive-in movie theaters.
It is? Okay.
What they do is they double feature movies. So when a big movie comes out from a certain studio, sometimes they'll double feature a previous big movie from that studio. And then sense. Ticket sales pair. So Kingdom is being double featured with Deadpool and
Wolverine. Okay.
Yeah. So
you were right. You were right the whole time.
I was. So now chances are we're going to see like Deadpool and Wolverine. It's going to do pretty well. And then it'll have like a weird kind of spike, or maybe just not fall as hard like for Alien Romulus weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
Interesting.
Isn't that a weird double billing?
Yeah. I've never heard of this.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
What?
Like Twisters probably won't fall as hard because it's going to be double billed with Trap, I'd assume. Mm-hmm. Unless they double bill Trap with the Watchers, then you'll see the Watchers appear out of nowhere. Well, you never know because M. Night, I mean,
that would make sense. Yeah.
And then the Bike Riders fell out too. I think the Bike Riders had that happen last weekend though.
Yeah.
I can't remember what came out last weekend. I think so. They must have double billed it with. Maybe they double billed it with Twisters.
Yeah, it was in the 10.
Yeah. Anywho, next weekend, Trap.
I'm
excited for Trap.
Oh, let's go.
I got my ticket. Seeing it at 6:15 on Thursday.
Hey.
What's up?
You know the butcher? That nut job that goes around town chopping people up?
Yeah, what about the butcher that goes
the feds got word he's going to be here tonight. So they set up a trap for him. This whole place, it's a trap.
Oh my god. I love how you memorize just random lines of trailers.
No, me and my dad have joked about that scene of the trap trailer like 50 times. Why is it filmed like that? Why does he say it like that? Why does he tell him? What?
I don't know.
Like, hopefully in the movie we actually get to know why he says that, because like he is so stupid to say that. What? Why would you say?
I think maybe in the context of the film, it'll fit better.
It's just such a silly thing. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Josh Hartnett is just so charming.
I mean, definitely.
And it is Josh Hartnett.
Have you seen Josh Hartnett?
I have.
He's Josh Hartnett
in The Bear and in Oppenheimer. He's great. I'd be charmed by Josh Hartnett. I'd tell him about the nut job being trapped. We also have Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Woo!
Are you going to see this movie?
I'm not going to see this movie.
Wow. That's a lot. Are you going
to see this movie?
I might see it on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm definitely considering seeing Harold and the Purple Crayon.
All right.
Why not?
Yeah.
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 So, with that being said, I think we can talk a little bit more about Deadpool with spoilers. So if you have not seen Deadpool and Wolverine, click off now. Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you have, let's talk about some spoilers.
Channing Tatum is Gambit! Ah!
That was really funny.
That was
great. I loved it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Channing Tatum as Gambit. I did have a lot of fun with all of the cameos. It was nice to see.
Can I say this with the cameos?
Okay.
Like we mentioned, the scene where they're all coming in, where it's Elektra and Blade and Gambit and then X-23. Yeah. The music is so funny. They should have made a joke about it with Deadpool because it's hilarious.
Yes,
and should have been pointed out.
They did make a joke about Channing Tatum's accent.
Yeah, which
that was good.
Yeah. I think that the way they're used is okay. Where that initial scene where it's a couple minutes of like them all talking, I think is solid. Mm-hmm. Like none of the performances are dreadful or anything. And the fact that they are used beyond that scene in an action sequence to where they aren't just cameos, but they do play some sort of a role, I think is good. My problem with it is it felt more Multiverse of Madness than No Way Home. And I think that's the wrong way to go. Where like they're there really for the fan service of people going, "Oh my god, it's that person!" Ah, and then they like do action so that we can see them doing action, and then that's kind of it. And beyond that, they really don't serve a purpose. And who they are specifically, I think, is better than Multiverse of Madness. Where like collectively, like at least those first three, they are these sort of forgotten Fox characters being brought back, and like no one had ever really given them much thought in a while. And I like how they were utilized like that, where it was almost like a second wind of these characters who really were never gonna get that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my issue with it is that unlike No Way Home, where it's really Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and like it's Tobey Maguire coming in, he has a lot to do. It's Andrew Garfield like getting to essentially go back and save Gwen. Those characters were cared about a lot more, and there was still more story to tell clearly, and they couldn't. And so they were brought back as fan service, yes, but as true supporting characters to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where they form a bond and they almost coach him in a way, and they help him on his character arc and get him to a point where he couldn't have gotten otherwise, and play a major role in the third act.
Yeah.
These guys, they're not even really in the third act. They're in the action beat before the third act, sort of. Mm-hmm. Like, the structure of it's a little weird, but
the structure is a little weird.
The connection that they have to Deadpool and Wolverine is paper thin, and they aren't just cannon fodder like the Illuminati is in Multiverse of Madness. That I think was atrocious, but they weren't utilized so much to necessarily warrant their existence. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think what I enjoyed a lot more, I think, was Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, that was hilarious. I love that.
That was hilarious. I love that
Yeah.
too. And I love the misleading bit of it being like people thinking,
Yes.
oh, that's Captain America. Kind of right away, I saw through it and I was like, this is Johnny Storm. This is not Captain
Yeah.
America. But
That was so
I
much
liked the intention, and it was a lot of fun. And they had a lot of fun with that. And I just think that it made more sense. I guess an issue I kind of have with specifically Elektra and Blade showing up here is that they weren't that big
Yeah, no.
on their own. Specifically Elektra.
Right.
Elektra got
Blade at least got more than
own,
one movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Elektra got one movie, and that movie was known as being like really bad. Like one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Like that's its reputation. Yeah. Blade got a few movies, but you have nobody who's like really talking about those movies and like their plots and anything like that anymore.
I also think it's weird when like the MCU Blade has been in development hell for so long that like they're just bringing back Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, speaking of MCU Blade, I forgot to mention this because all we did was talk about RDJ Dr. Doom, but they didn't mention Blade once at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So that's probably getting pushed way off just until after the Avengers movies, which
like
is interesting.
It feels weird because everything that Disney and Marvel are doing about the new Blade movie, they're almost like pushing it back, hiding it, almost like covering up how much of a mess it is. Mm-hmm. But then to bring Wesley Snipes in here as like beyond just a cameo, like he's in several scenes, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, guys, look, Blade!" Like it's weird to push that. I don't know.
Yeah, but he also doesn't do like any vampire things. He just shoots.
No, he's just an action guy.
Yeah, like he literally he could have been like the Punisher.
Yeah, that's I think why Gambit is out of the four the only one that I thought was actually good.
I thought like, X-23 was too. X-23 got her scene with Logan.
Her scene with Logan was good. But I'm talking like in terms of the action and like powers and all of that. Gambit's really the only one that's actually I think utilized well.
Oh, I thought you meant just like in general.
No, in general, I would say X-23 is like very
followed closely by Channing Tatum as Gambit though.
Right. I do think weirdly though Chris Evans is the best of all of these strictly because of how the writing subverts the expectations of the audience. And like, so one, you think it's Captain America and it's not, and that's funny, and that's like a nice fun little twist. I think the way that they use Chris Evans as like the Captain America persona and subverting that too, where like all of the sudden he's cursing and it feels like they're bringing him back to his Scott Pilgrim days sort of. And then like obviously he's had roles like in Knives Out where he's a bit of an asshole, but like it's fun seeing Chris Evans like that. And so to see him like that in a Marvel movie is really fun. And I think was definitely the best utilization of the Void as kind of this sandbox to do whatever they want. Whereas the main cast that we get later, I think is kind of wasted and I don't think really needed to be there. I don't know. That's just me.
I mean, personally, I think that Chris Evans was used really well. I think that X-23 was used pretty well, specifically because of her scene with Wolverine. That is the scene that like genuinely developed his character. She will 100% be coming back. Yeah. And probably play a pretty big role in future movies with these characters. So I think overall, like her being here was really well done. And I also think that Channing Tatum as Gambit, it's just silly and it pokes fun at this movie that was in development before Disney bought Fox, then got shut down, and now it's just them bringing it back, making fun of Channing Tatum's accent, showing how cool Gambit's powers are, and then that's it. But then Elektra and and Blade could have been anybody.
Yeah.
And these are two characters where they're just not big enough in superhero culture where they have some story element that could have gotten resolved. I think that this could have been cooler if we had a situation like Gambit where these were like fan cast type of characters. I think
Right.
that that's a sort of cameo that would have worked really well. Like I think the John Krasinski
I was gonna
cameo
say.
is kind of in that vein, and I think that worked in Multiverse of Madness, where you at least all the fans were saying he should be Mr. Fantastic. All right, let's show you that for a scene.
Yeah, because I
and
think
kind of do that.
That's one thing. As strongly against just cameos as a concept as I am, and the fact that like that is now how fans of these franchises are grading the movies of like how good were the cameos. That's terrible. I do think it allows for a fan cast like that that would never otherwise happen to happen.
Yeah.
And it's cool. And it is like I know a lot of these movies are kind of being made with the same mentality of like doing it for the fans and whatever. That is where I do truly see it as like just wanting to make the fans who have given so much of their time and love and money to these franchise, like making them satisfied with something like that.
And like
I
feel
like
heard. That's also why I like the little Henry Cavill cameo.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. Even though it's not like a cameo that lasted, that was just fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I would totally be down with Henry Cavill as the next Wolverine.
Yeah,
but it kind of seems like Hugh Jackman is just Wolverine still,
which I'm good with.
Yeah, that's the best solution.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about why I don't think the emotional beats with Deadpool work. Because they don't.
I don't really think that they worked either.
My whole issue with it is really how much happens off screen. Where his relationship with Vanessa, apparently after Deadpool 2, completely falls apart and they are no longer together.
Yeah.
And so a lot of his motivation is wanting to get like back with her, which it's so hard to have investment in that if the last thing we saw was them together. And it's like you are creating something out of nothing and expecting us to treat it as something when it isn't. But even beyond just her, this is like the first time in a Deadpool movie we've had this universe-ending threat. And the reason that Deadpool cares so much is because he wants to save the people in his universe, specifically like the 8 people in that picture that he cares so much about. There's like one scene of them at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he's not even having the time of his life during that scene. And then he gets abducted by the TVA, and then the whole rest of the movie happens. And again, I can't be expected to care so much about characters that we barely see.
Well, I think the idea is like you care if you've seen the other 2 Deadpool movies. Because those are the characters of the other 2 Deadpool movies.
I guess, but like especially when you have him and Vanessa's relationship in such a different spot than it was before, and like, is it Peter? Is that the guy's name? Like he and Peter are BFFs now. I don't like. Yes, they're the same characters, but they're in different spots now because it's years later. That it's not just a 1-to-1, and I care about them the way I did before. Like Colossus doesn't have, I don't think, a single speaking line.
Yeah, Colossus
the entire movie
him, like, for a couple of seconds.
Like out of those supporting characters, he's one of the bigger ones.
Yeah,
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Also, like one other thing I wanted to mention: why did Colossus and like the other people he knew in his universe that had superpowers not show up to help in the third
I don't
act?
know. Yeah,
that would have made the third act a lot better because then it's like tying into these are the 8 people I care about. This is why I care about them, because they're coming to me to help me because they love me and I love them. Yes, we see Peter, but we should be seeing more than Peter. This is a big budget Marvel movie, and they're doing things that make it feel like they are cutting costs.
Yes, and this has been said so much about so many MCU movies. This isn't even like a post-Endgame thing. This has been from the start.
Yeah.
You cannot make every movie the end of the world, 1. No. And 2, if you're gonna do that, you can't just have two superheroes. Because that's not who would be there if it was the end of the world. It would be more than that. And like, I think that Deadpool worked so well in those smaller scale stories, and I think the scale has been upped with each one, and I think the quality of the movie has gone down with each one. And this is the first time where it was really like he can't die, and he's good with sharp things and guns. That's it. And beyond Wolverine, who like wasn't even there a couple days ago for him, it's just him saving the multiverse. Like what? No. Yeah. I don't know. The whole Marvel Jesus thing was like, I think, hammered into the ground a little too much. Along with the curse words, like some of them, it's funny, but if the whole concept of the comedy is it's a standard joke emphasized with an F word, it's not that. And like, I think just the usage of language was better in the first two Deadpool movies.
Yeah, I feel like the usage of language in this film was more like, oh my god, Disney is letting us do this. Isn't that so funny? Ha 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 ha.
Right, which was funny in Guardians Volume 3 when it was the one time.
Yeah.
And like that being the way that it was done the first time, I think is funny. But if it's like dozens upon dozens of F-bombs, they just lose any sort of power after a little while.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I saved my first F-bomb of this whole podcast for today.
Yeah.
I didn't drop one before today.
If everything's blank, nothing is. It holds true in pretty much every case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked a lot. We have a lot
I think
of
that's
thoughts.
pretty much all I got to say.
I think that's kind of all I got to say too. Even though most of this is negative, like what we've said, this is not a movie that either of us hate.
No. I had despite all of the flaws, I had so much fun watching this in a theater. Don't let this stop you.
Yeah, I think the theatrical experience of this is great. The theatrical experience of this film is why I think it has such a high fan rating. It's a great movie to see with a bunch of people and to experience in a theater. And this is why we have movie theaters, and I love that for this film. But as a movie, it is flawed in a lot of ways. And I think that that's not a horrible thing to admit.
It's okay.
But anywho, I'm willing to sign off now.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Actually, quickly before we go, again, August movie auction on Friday. Tune in for that. And then
I'm gonna whoop his ass again.
We're going to be having a bit of a mini series going on for our Friday episodes for August. We're going to be doing a 4-part 2010s movie tournament. It is a 128 movie tournament.
Get hyped.
128 movies.
Get so hyped, people.
We're going to be having our good friend and also co-editor, he edits the Friday episodes, Brendan Noon, joining us for all of these episodes. So very excited for that. Get hyped for that. It's going to be a great time. Hyped. Yeah. We are currently watching films to get up to that movies. 128 number.
We're at 122 right now.
The amount of movies that Brendan alone has watched.
Brendan watched 3 yesterday. One of them was Wolf of Wall Street, which is 3 hours. He's he's going off.
Just like he's gone.
Has he watched anything else today?
He watched Nightcrawler, Wolf of Wall Street, Boyhood, all very long movies. The day before that, Fruitvale Station and Moneyball.
Yeah.
Like in the span of 2 days, he's watched 5 movies. I've watched Scott Pilgrim, Florida Project, and I'm halfway through her. And then you've seen 12
I've only watched 12 Years a Slave so far, and I feel like mentally that's all that I could have done up to this point. I'm going to watch like Crazy Stupid Love or something tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, Crazy Stupid Love's a really good one.
Yeah.
But anywho, thank you everybody, and get excited for that.
Let's go!
Tournament. I think we could do some fun social media stuff with that. Maybe a sort of fan tournament or something. So keep an eye out for that. Follow us on What the Film on Instagram.
Follow us everywhere.
Instagram handle. Well,
follow us everywhere. Follow us to the bathroom. Follow us to the supermarket. Come on.
Oh yeah. Like follow us. We have TikTok. We got YouTube. Yeah. So what the film? No spaces. All lowercase. _ podcast. Follow us at that on Instagram if you want to vote in a little fan 2010s movie tournament.
Are we gonna post like all of the same matchups? And just see what happens. All right.
Yeah, but then like their matchups will be different if they vote differently than we do.
Right, yeah. So like we have to abstain from voting though. Like we can't have a say in it.
Yeah, we can't. And the finals for them could be two completely different movies. Like their two finalists could be movies that we boot out in the round of 128.
Their two finalists are going to be Cars 2 and Venom. And Cars 2 is going to win.
Let's go with that. Cars 2. All right. Thank you, everybody.
See ya.